Welcome to Indiana Basketball After the Game with Todd Leary, brought to you by Endeavor Hospitality's WOW Network and Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Now, let's get to the action with Todd Leary and special guest Charlie Miller.
That's right. Welcome into After the Game, Indiana versus North Carolina. With us, as always, the great Todd Leary. And joining us tonight as a special guest, Charlie Miller. Indiana gets a 77-65 victory over North Carolina in the Big Ten, the last iteration of the Big Ten ACC Challenge. Guys, take it away.
Hey, that's a fun one to go out on. Obviously, Indiana will have a great taste in their mouth as to leaving the Big Ten ACC Challenge. This was just a fantastic setup for Indiana tonight. Charlie will. I'll bring you in here in just a second, but just to go recap the game a little bit. Indiana really, I think if you watch the broadcast, Jay Billis throughout the broadcast talked about Indiana's domination of the game. It seemed like a bigger lead than it was the whole game. Indiana can never really pull away. It would get to like 10, 12, 14, and then North Carolina would make a couple baskets. But overall, it was a dominating performance by Indiana. Trace looked like the All-American that he wanted to look like on national TV. This is great for him from the standpoint of looking at National Players of the Year. It's so early for things like that, but to get an early season game like this, Charlie, on national TV with the ACC Big Ten Challenge, Jay Billis on the call, he's going to talk about Trace all year long now. Dominating Baycott in there, talk about what that means for not just Trace, but the team at this point in the season right now.
Well, no, even going back to the tweet, because I remember Baycott and Trace, if you recall, they were tweeting back and forth last year about wanting to play, right?
That's
whether they knew it or not. So to have it come to
I forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah, right. To have it come to fruition and then to show up and show out on national TV, which for me, I think we really needed, right? To really make a statement game, being number 10. Who cares what happened after this? But you belong in that position, that spot, right? As we continue to talk, I got some outlooks I want to talk about, but yet we belong. We look like a team that has an identity to belong, right? So that's what I'm really proud about.
Yeah, and I put scratching the surface as my title on there because honestly, Charlie, I think you would agree. Like Indiana didn't play that great compared to their potential of what we know they can do. Offensively, they didn't play that great, and still pretty much dominated. The points in the paint is just to do that to a North Carolina team. That's like doing it to Michigan State. Like that's big time. Yeah, and this team, they played decent. They played pretty good. Obviously making the shots, Jalen making those shots in the first half, like that's awesome for him.
Right, as a freshman,
It kind of takes the first 6 or 8 games, whatever they played so far, and it kind of throws them all out the window that he struggled shooting the ball because he comes out in this game. Nationally, everyone that's seen Jalen shoot the ball thinks he's a great shooter because he came out firing, making everything. So it just immediately puts you in a position to where, the ceiling is so high for this team. And that's why I put scratching the surface because they played okay. They played pretty good, but they didn't like come out there. One of the things that you said that I think is perfect is when Indiana beat Kentucky on the Watt shot, that was awesome because of the excitement of all of it. But I don't want to say it's lucky, but that's rare.
You give him again. I get you, right? I know you get another shot. Like, okay, we're not making that. I mean, it is what it is,
right?
We're not making that shot.
But in this case, it was. I mean, you talk about solidifying. You're a top 10 team, top 5. You are. I think everyone would say Indiana played okay. I think Jay Billis and all the national people would say they played okay and dominated the game. So that that puts them in a category of, there's probably 10 teams that you could put in that scenario that would play okay offensively and still dominate the game. And that's what is exciting about, where we go from here.
Yeah, and one thing too, if you think about the identity, as I'm talking about identity of this team, we are athletic. I don't know if we've been athletic like this in a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
And
I don't know when.
I don't know, right? And now, not only athletic, they can play basketball, Todd.
Yeah.
They can play today's game. I'm not saying, they can play today's game.
Right.
Jalen can make plays on and off the basketball. He showed it tonight, right? Xavier, quick strikes, right? I mean, it really wasn't, sets and actions. It was more attack,
right?
Off the beginning, the jump. And I think that was, to me, the biggest key points. And then Trey Galloway playing big minutes.
Right.
And in that first half, at the end of the first half, coming through a couple floaters. I mean, dunk, right? I mean, like the big difference. We got an identity. Like, you don't have to have, I think what you really also have is Trey. We don't need Trace averaging 30.
Right.
Like in the past. Or what would happen to me is Trace would do such a great job in the beginning in the first half. The second half, we'll have a lull. First 5 minutes, second half, it'd be a fall off. We were consistent, right? I'm not, nothing against North Carolina. We were consistent. We did what we had to do. And I think that was the key factors for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think, Indiana's fan base is so knowledgeable, especially about how this team plays and how past Indiana teams have played. And I think, you and I, like, we always refer back to the Bob Knight days because that was us. That was when we were there. But this team is similar to that defensively. Only I think what you're alluding to is, like, they're crazy athletic. I mean, you were doing this with Neil Reeds and Tom Coverdales and Bees and people like me that never going to be described as athletic, long.
But skilled. That's what you guys were. I'm not so you guys, okay, who cares? But you were skilled, right?
You're not hurting my feelings, Charlie. I love watching guys.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is today's skill in today's game is more funny that you're talking about this. I was thinking about this earlier. It's more player movement than ball movement. Right? It's not necessarily reversals.
Right.
And off ball, it's more with ball, live ball move, triple threat action, make a defender sweat, get downhill play in the paint, as you said earlier, the dominance in the paint. And to me, sometimes when you have a team, the best shot is not necessarily a made shot, Todd.
Right.
It's a miss.
For sure.
It's a miss with Trace and Race and Geronimo.
Right.
Sorry. And then now Malik. It is what it is, man. You gotta have three or four. Everybody has to box out against Indiana because you can send three guys offensively, two guys back to stop the fast break, and I think you can have a chance at keeping that ball alive for some putback opportunities. And I think that's one thing that we can have off shooting nights, but the points in the paint, the second chance points. If we do that, that's winning basketball. That ball ain't gonna go in the hole all the time at 35, 40%, 33%.
Right.
But sometimes the best shots is a missed shot. You can rebound it now.
And Indiana tonight shoots 3 for 13, so 23% from the 3-point line. Nothing great there, nothing big, but shoots 50% from the floor overall. And I think you would agree with this, Charlie. Like, Trace is, I think, one of the best things about being a teammate of Trace is how efficient he is.
Right.
Because he puts up big numbers and he's not a volume shooter.
Yeah.
Tonight, he has 21 points tonight. He shoots 16 times. That's a lot for him. He generally is more like an 11 shot guy.
Exactly.
But I think you would agree with this. Like, he had, I can easily think of 3, maybe 4 right off the top of my head, shots that were his little jump hook that he almost always makes. That he didn't make tonight. Yeah. And that, to me, was the difference between us getting that lead to 20 at some point, because we had it at that 12-point range. I know he missed several. I know Race missed a couple that were right there that he normally makes. Malik missed those ones he's always been making. Yeah. So, I mean, offensively, we were nothing special tonight. And still, I just loved hearing. I know Jay Billis went to Duke, so he loves saying that North Carolina got dominated by somebody. I get it because he was overemphasizing it. But I loved hearing it because we just don't get to hear that very often, or we haven't for a long time anyway.
Well, hey, and that's my point. I mean, now you're hearing sound bites that we normally don't hear.
Right.
But that goes to show the preparedness that these players came into the season with, right? I mean, because they've been playing good all season. I mean, I'm not going nothing against Xavier's and the other schools, but now you're playing against a perennial team like us on the other side on the East Coast.
A team that 7 days ago was ranked number 1.
Correct. Now that's letting you know something. Now it's let's not take away from this, but let's celebrate this. But this to me is we're establishing an identity that I'm not trying to get too far ahead. And I'm thinking about some of those games we gave up last year, second half. I think we got a team that can be a little more resilient and aware of their game readiness coming out of second half. Like tonight, we played solid. Wasn't special. I think the 2 3s, you said 3 for 23 on threes. The 2 3s made by Jalen, right?
Right.
Right. I mean, okay. But like somebody said, Robert says 3-point shooter, 3 for 13. Robert, guess what? It's okay today. We shot 50% from the paint, man. Hey, sometimes you need them missed threes. We need those 11 missed threes. Because now you got guys again, Geronimo, Trace, and Race, putting the putbacks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, when you look at overall, you take Indiana, like one of the things that I've loved seeing, and please forgive me, fans and everybody who's tuned in and watching live. When you put your messages up there, they're up real quick for me, and then they go away. So I see them and read them, but then they go away. So I'm kind of remembering what some of them were. But you know what's fun about most of those comments is they're all talking about everybody's excited about hustle, offensive rebounds, guys playing hard, defensive pressure, the things that Indiana was built on for 30 years with Coach Knight. And I'm not being Bill Walton and trying to relive my glory days.
Right.
But what we all loved that brand of basketball, and Charlie was a part of it. I was a part of it, and this team, of course, with Mike Woodson, was a part of it. This team has a lot of the same similarities. And Charlie, you made a great point in today's version of basketball.
Correct.
Like the 1993 Indiana Hoosiers team wouldn't be able to compete right now with these guys because it's a different brand. Now they would play different. Everybody would adjust and play differently, but this is just a different brand of basketball in today's world. And these guys are fun to watch. They play hard. That's the most exciting thing, I think, Charlie, is Coach Woodsman's not over there he's not coaching effort.
No, man. No. And somebody just put up that I wanted to bring this up. Thank you. I think it's Mark Smith. They had 2 turnovers, I believe, going into the second half. That, Todd, that's winning basketball.
That's a big against North Carolina. That's a big
I think it was like 2. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. It was like 2 or 3 turnovers going into the second half. Like that, compared to last year, was not the case. But it might have been, again, what I call the it factor, identity theft, IT. We just didn't have it last year.
Right.
X was new, right? But now you got, and what I also see, and we always talk about this, family, right? I call that forget about me, I love you. They are a culture. They have a culture. You can tell they like each other, Todd.
Right. Yeah.
I'm looking at the pressers, the laughter, Coach Woodson, the players, the looseness. Yep. Like I'm like they're playing for one another. Like my skill in the weight room, my skill getting shots up is for Todd Leary. It's not for me. My skill is for my brother. That's what I see. I see that in those players. I see that. And you can have nights like you had tonight and not shoot well and end up coming on top. And that's what I really appreciate from those players as well.
Yeah. And I tell you, it was interesting to see the comments from North Carolina's coach in talking about, Assembly Hall wasn't going to be a major factor for these guys. They played in front of 80,000 people. Let me tell you where he didn't think this process through, because I'll tell you where it was a big factor. 6 big time recruits in that building tonight.
Yeah.
All brought by Indiana University. Exactly. And they saw a crowd. I had several of my buddies that were there texting me, telling me what the crowd was like, and they were comparing it to the Kentucky win.
Yeah.
And so if he doesn't think the crowd affected his team, I can tell you what it did affect. It affected 5 or 6 recruits that were in there tonight.
And if those recruits are smart, they're gonna understand that. it's difficult to win on the road, especially if you're going to a traditional powerhouse like
Right.
Indiana.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. I never played at Rupp, but I can only imagine. You played, I think it was Kingdom Hall at the time, whatever it might be called now. But you go to those, you go elsewhere. Come on, man. Like that's
different.
hard. And I think that's the difference also to the sixth person being the fans. And they weren't UNC, they weren't ready for that.
Right.
You can talk all that psychological stuff you want to. You got to still go out there and play and lace them up.
Yeah.
And I think the crowd affected those players from UNC.
For sure. Well, one of the things that you don't take into effect or you don't take into account on the coach making those statements is they're coming off of 2 losses.
Yes.
They were ranked number 1 in the country, and now they're 18. That's a colossal drop. Like that doesn't happen very often.
That's right.
And so, he's irritated and perturbed. I would be too. I get it. Like he's not going to answer that question the same way he would answer it 2 weeks ago when they were, everybody was telling them how great they were and they were probably going to repeat. And you even heard, like, when the Maui Classic was going on, I heard the announcers talking about, North Carolina was the favorite to repeat. And that was without even really watching them play at all. And you watch that team out there on the floor, you were making a fantastic point in watch our guys in the press conferences, look at them putting tweets and videos out all the time. Like they're always hanging around. They like each other. Look at that North Carolina team tonight. Did you think they liked each other?
My point.
It sure didn't look like it.
My point.
It didn't look like it.
Robert put it up. Robert, giving you credit. Chemistry, man. It's needed. Chemistry to culture is needed, especially now because we're going into our Big Ten season. We're going to get ready to go into the ACC, and like this is needed, right? I mean, so like this is a huge win for us. I'm happy for the players. Like again, it's just now not to get too ahead of ourselves. You just gotta stay dominant, stay humble, stay hungry, and stay consistent.
Hey, and I tried to make this super clear. Like, obviously, it's fun to play in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. It's fun to play the North Carolinas, the Kansases, and the Arizonas. But the 2 most important games that we play in December are the 2 Big Ten games.
That's right.
Nebraska and Rutgers.
Right.
So
that's right.
You talk about goals of what you want to do for a year.
That's right.
Winning a North Carolina game is something that in March is going to look great and bump up their resume and probably get them a 1 seed higher than what they would have been if they lost. But these 2 Big Ten games are the most important games they play.
Rutgers coming up, right? Rutgers first, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
on the road.
Yeah, and again, now we gotta get these young ones acclimated to. Now you're going on the road. You gotta lock in.
Right.
You gotta play 2 full halves of basketball, but not. Let's continue to talk about this one. We'll stay right here with this one. But no, a tremendous win for us. I'm just happy for the whole program. I'm super excited for them.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Like I know you're not here in Indiana, but I'm in Bloomington still right now, and just going out to the store or the mall or wherever you are, and just seeing people with a lot more gear on than you normally would see.
Yeah, man.
Just hearing everybody talk about it, people being excited. The comments that we get on this show and Jim gets on the Daily Show, like those. That's just fun. Like we're basketball nuts. Like we're junkies. We're idiots. And it's been a long time since we've been able to be. I know the Cody Zeller teams and Jordy Holes, like those guys. I loved watching those teams too. But there's a different feel with the whole Mike Woodson vibe of everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's and again for me, one of the things that I always talk about, when people talk about Coach Woodson, the difference. It's nothing like being a former player, but not only a former player, a former dominant player, right? So you can go in anybody's house and say, Big Ten Player of the Year, that's Chip, recruited by IU. I did it all. I put it on the uniform.
Yeah.
Now I'm back. Like that talk track, you can't match. But now again, also I see the professionalism of Coach Woodson that he's now passing on. I call it passion, Todd. Pass on. He's passing it on to these younger players, and I mean, you can just see they're relaxed. Like They are relaxed and play relaxed, aggressive basketball. They love it. They work hard, and I mean the sky's the limit.
It
Uh,
really is.
so I just want to make sure we keep, us fans, we keep the same energy, when defeat happens, because I mean we you don't have those nights, but yet look for the bounce back, right? I think we have the tools for the bounce back, and I think that's the key to anything else. The wins you showed tonight, and I'm hoping they watch film on this, fellas. We didn't shoot the ball well,
Right.
that's going to happen, but yet we got to stay on that glass. We got to give them one shot or no shot, no second chances. We got to stay on that glass offensively. We're going to be in every game you play. It's going to come down to the last 5 minutes of that game.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, just going through some of the stats, I mean, if you want to nitpick things, North Carolina did have 12 offensive rebounds. Indiana only had 8. You mentioned the 8 turnovers that Indiana had. Jalen had 4 of them. Chalk that up to freshmen. But I like to give Jay Billis credit because I think he does a really good job of kind of analyzing the game, and even though he's a Duke guy, but I give him credit because he made his analogy of Jalen Hood-Schifino was great, and that he said, no, as a freshman this doesn't happen very often, but no one can speed him up. He did make 4 turnovers, but they were him. It was almost like a rookie quarterback throwing interceptions. Like he was trying to make some big plays, but he wasn't out of control ever. Like I don't think I've ever seen him out of control.
Yeah, and that's the key. When you play with composure, that means you have options. And I see a guy named Scott says he's not here to hear me talk. I don't care, Scott. I know basketball, probably more than you. And I'm going to tell you like this night. I forgot more basketball, Scott, than you probably ever know. Jalen plays with composure because he has options. You don't have to speed him up. And that's the thing people don't understand, right? Right.
Scott's probably a Purdue fan. It's okay.
I would know I would do something. Just imagine what I'm doing because I don't care what he's saying. But my point is, players like we got players that have options. We haven't had, and what I mean by options, people listening like Scott, you have player scoring options. You don't have to rush. He can handle the basketball. He can shoot it. He can attack you. He's a triple threat player. And with that being said, you have to understand that now when you have options, you become a playmaker. He's a playmaker. And that's what we haven't had. You have a playmaker outside of Xavier Johnson because Xavier is the dominant ball handler. Now Jalen can bring the ball up. You can let X get off the basketball a little bit. You give different looks. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Cash App. I can put it on there if you want me to. But my point is that's a little basketball talk. But you got options, man. And that's what people don't understand, right? When you have options as a player, you don't play all frenzy. You don't play frivolous. You play under control, and that's the key.
Yeah, and he does he's one of those guys that it's hard to explain why he's so good. But I think the best explanation for saying him, Xavier's awesome. Xavier's a great player. Trey Galloway, great player. Like I enjoy rooting for them. I'm glad they're on the team that I love to root for. But the best way to describe Jalen is he's a pro. He is a 100% pro and makes it look easy and is only going to get better all year long. Like the question on there a second ago, what's Indiana's floor and ceiling? I mean, the floor I don't want to talk about because that would probably involve injuries. And hopefully we never have to deal with something like that. But the ceiling, it's stupid to sit here and say this is a Final Four capable team. They have the talent, they have the coaching, they like each other, they play well together. They have all of those things. But there is luck that becomes involved in making a deep run like that. Like it's still November just for today. Tomorrow it's December, but I mean it's too early to make those kind of predictions. Does this team have a makeup of a team that could make a Sweet 16, an Elite 8, a Final Four? Once you get to the Elite 8, anybody can win at that point. Like that's how we see these Cinderella stories all the time.
That's right.
And this team, like the ceiling for this team is the, I mean, it's the whole thing. It's the big trophy. Like they are that good. They have the capability of being that good. Are they there today? No, offensively they're not. Defensively they might be. I mean, I think you'd put them up there I mean, if you name the best defensive teams right now and you just asked, Seth Davis or Jay Billis or those guys, I mean, they're probably going to say Houston's the best defensive team.
Right.
They're probably going to say Indiana in the next sentence after that.
Right.
I mean, they're right there.
Right.
At that point. And so, I think Indiana's ceiling is going to be based on how good they get offensively. And when you have Trace, Trace is getting so much better. Like, look at what he is now. He's able to catch the ball against Baycott, 17 feet from the basket and make one or two hard dribbles.
Right.
And he's at the rim. I mean, he couldn't do that last year even.
Right.
And so the ceiling for this team's it's big. Like it's big. And it's silly to talk about like that. But I mean, I'll piss off some of our people on here, and I'll say the ceiling for Purdue's big too. I mean, that team plays really well together. Yeah. I'm not trying to turn this into a Purdue show. I'm just saying, like, there are several teams at this point in the season, November 30th. There's 8 or 10 teams you could say their ceiling is the Elite Eight in that situation. But there's going to be 4 or 5 other teams that get to that point eventually. I mean, are you going to go out and say that Izzo's not going to turn this Michigan State team around? Exactly. They're getting blasted tonight by Notre Dame. Right. I'm not betting against Izzo. That's for sure.
Yeah, and another thing too, right? I think for us, as we can look at the floor, like you said, barring injuries or just a total dismantle of the team, the weed gate, stuff like that happened last year. Yeah. Right, just being real with you, but the ceiling, I think the best thing we can do is just take this and learn from this, right, and be present because. We start winning, all of a sudden, we start talking Elite Eight, Final Four as well. Hey, we still got Rutgers, man. We got Rutgers around the corner that we haven't really fared well at.
Right.
In New York.
And got Geo Baker talking trash all day long about it.
So for me, great compare. And again, what people understand, even though we see this stuff now with social media and the tweets and all these other things, I think it's more prevalent where they see more of this. We didn't really see this, Todd. We heard about it, but we block it out. Man, listen, those players can go to practice tomorrow, shoot around. They're not thinking twice about what happened. Oh, great win. Oh, you got this. Oh, that happened to you. Next game. It's like we're locked in. And I think the focus that they have is tremendous. And it's going to be one practice, one game at a time to get back to shoring up the mistakes they got to make in practice, highlighting the positives, continue to do that, build on the strengths, and see what happens. The first tip off, at Rutgers, right? I think that's the key. Staying present, right? Someone asked about Trey Galloway. I think Trey's, he showed improvement. He's doing everything he needs to do as a glue guy, right? It's glue guy. It's not, total dominance. It won't be nothing but what I call, blue collar worker, right? He gets it. He gets his minutes. He's making nice, great shots, making great plays, hustling. I think he did the same thing last year. I think it's just more confidence, more comfortable.
Yeah, and staying healthy for him. Like he seems to be a guy that attracts injuries, unfortunately. I mean, but that's just all a part of it. Like everybody has every team deals with that. Indiana's not we're not crying wolf here, but there's so many different guys. Like I love it. This is what I love about the fans. This is what I love about Indiana's fan base. Like I try to explain it. I was talking to Montross earlier today, and we give each other a hard time back and forth about whose fan base is the best and all that. And there's no arguing that Indiana's fan base is knowledgeable, and like we don't just go out there and rattle off stupid stuff about who scored the most points, played great. I mean, Trey Galloway, I couldn't even tell you he had 11 points. I could have never told you he had 11 points.
Right.
But I could have told you he played really good. Like I know he made it. He made a dunk. He made an awesome reverse layup. Like I remember those.
I could have told you that.
He played great, barring the fact of how many points he scored. And that's what Indiana fans. That's what I love about Indiana fans. Is they enjoy the parts of a guy playing better that Coach Knight used to enjoy. When a guy's stat line wouldn't look like he played good at all, but everybody knows he played well. When you're not scared of the film session. He played pretty good.
That's right.
What's up, guys? How are you guys doing?
Hey, Jimmy.
How you doing, man? The press conference. Everybody excited?
Very easy and very relaxed. Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hajafino Trace Jackson got his word in.
What was the word? What was the word today?
I'm guessing it was anaconda, because he said that he started talking about defense, and he said, well, we like to suffocate you like an anaconda and just take all the life out of you.
Yeah.
Charlie, if you don't know, here of late, there's during the pressers, Miller Kopp has been giving words to each guy, and they have to work this word into the presser.
I love it.
And it's something stupid, So,
it's some random dumb word
that's great, man.
That's hard to work in.
The other day he's talking
good job of working it in.
Yeah, the other day he was talking about the freshmen and marinating chicken, getting better and seitan and all that
silly stuff. That hey Jim, you weren't listening earlier, but that's one of the things Charlie and I were talking about was kind of the the camaraderie, the glue. Like these guys all like each other. Like they look like they're having fun. Look at that.
I was getting ready to say, to be able to do that, to have that comfortability.
Yeah. And look at that North Carolina team tonight. Like I'm not even trying to like talk bad about them, but they didn't look like they were having fun. They didn't look like they liked each other. They didn't look like they wanted to be there. They looked miserable.
What did you see Hubert's presser? I mean,
no.
He doesn't sound like he's having fun. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
he's not.
Hey, North Carolina coaches don't get to lose 3 in a row very often.
Boy, yeah. He did say this is North Carolina. We went to the national championship last year.
Yeah,
we played in front of 80,000 fans.
Yeah,
So how'd that work out for you tonight? But Charlie, how have you been, brother?
I've been well, man. I can't complain. I appreciate you guys for having me on, man.
Al, are you kidding me? I appreciate you guys, man. People love to hear you all talk. They don't want to hear me or anybody else. They love hearing you guys because you know what it is. Scott, how are you? You guys have been there, have done it, and you know what it takes, and you know what's going on out here, and that's the thing. But Trey Galloway, how much longer until he's starting? I mean, I know
he's
the
not
starting thing.
This is what all of our fans fall into the trap, Jim. Why would you change the lineup? Why start him? He's playing great coming off the bench. Why change it? How many minutes did he play tonight?
A lot.
How many minutes? Yeah, I don't have that. See. I don't have that stat sheet up, but I'm going to say he played 20-ish.
23.
20. Yeah, he's not going to play more than that if he starts. So what's the difference?
Exactly. And I'd rather a guy like him come off the bench, to be real with you. Because I know he's going to give me – I'm not caring what he does because I don't think he cares offensively what he's doing. He's going to come in and show you what he's been watching from the bench. And that's the key. He's paying attention. He's aware. Right? I'd rather have a guy like that come off the bench to start.
Yeah, Trey
I wasn't talking about Taylor. I wasn't talking about Taylor taking Jalen and Shafino off the court. I was thinking more about Miller Kopp.
But that's the thing, though. This is what we have to accept, and I don't think it's a negative. So I shouldn't say it that way. But I mean, Mike Woodson's coaching career comes from the NBA, and look how many teams in the NBA have a starting lineup that. There's a guy, 1 or 2 guys in there that's kind of a glue guy that probably skill and talent-wise doesn't deserve to be in that starting lineup.
Right.
But they just play well together. That unit plays well together.
Yep.
And I don't think Mike Woodson is ever going to fall into the trap of worrying about starting someone because they're playing better. As long as that unit's playing well together.
He's not.
Yeah.
He didn't give a crap about starting.
He proved that last year. He proved that last year.
Charlie, it's early in the season, but man, you got to like what you're seeing from this team this early on. They're playing tough teams. They go on the road and win against a tough Xavier team who has been playing well since. They beat this North Carolina team who was in the national championship game last year. They got a lot more coming up, no doubt, but they are moving along as the season progresses, probably about as nice as you'd like to see them.
We're athletic. That's what I was telling Todd in the beginning. I mean, that's something I don't think we had in a long time, Jim. We have an athletic team that can get after it. We can, and it shows.
Todd Leary was playing.
Yeah. We compared my athleticism to this team. Yeah. I would be sitting down there with those guys. I would be. Anthony Leal and I would have been dressed the same tonight.
No, man. Hey, but think about it. We're athletic and we're skilled. Like I was telling Todd, like we were talking. The skill I'm talking about more as a player movement, not necessarily ball, off ball, reads. I mean, not saying that's old school, but like these players play. You talked about Jalen earlier, right? He's a pro. Well, you know what, Todd? Think about it. He's been playing basketball for a long time, even at the post grad level. The Montverdes, right? I mean, you're playing top level, high elite, AAU basketball, which is now, I mean, everything's being filmed. Like you're used to film sessions.
Right.
He's seen it all. He's seen all the looks. He's been in front of, he played all in front of all the coaches. That's something that we don't put in consideration. You take us down to Jacksonville, Florida.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm talking about, right? Todd Leary was like my AAU coach, Jim, as we put together like a little IU incoming freshman team. Right. But I mean, these guys are going all over the country playing week in, week out with top tier talent. They're used to it. This stage for Jalen is nothing to me.
Right.
That's the composure you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Well, and you heard, Jim, I know you couldn't hear the broadcast, but Jay Billis on there, multiple times talking about there was a
Was he talking about how good of a time he had on the show today?
He did not, but he talked about the fact that there was an NBA representative from every single team in the league in the building tonight. So,
wow, really?
And I will tell you this. I know Trace is improving his stock all the time. I don't care. I want him to be great in college, and then I want him to be great in the NBA. But Jalen's stock is, in a game like this, is rising quickly.
Yeah.
Well, we talked earlier today before just chatted. I'm like, you know what? This may be the game that Jalen Hood-Schifino, because you
did say that.
He's been playing great, but he's been like 4 of 12 or 4 of 13. Boy, he comes out, bam, he hits 2 shots right off to get him off to a good start. And another thing about this team tonight, they had 5 guys with 3 or more fouls, fellas.
Mm-hmm.
So they have 5 different guys. That is where this depth is going to come in for this team, because there's a lot of fouls called on these guys. There was a lot of ticky-tack stuff, but regardless, they had 5 guys with 3 or more fouls tonight.
Yeah, that's probably one of the things that, I know they want to continue with the pressure, and that's obviously a big deal. The announcers tonight couldn't talk impressive enough about Indiana's defensive pressure, but at some point they got to back that down a little bit. Like they've got to be a little bit smarter about some of the pressure they were putting on. Like Xavier got a couple fouls late in the game that, if North Carolina is a good offensive team and does make a couple shots, they could have made a difference. And that's the kind of stuff you can learn from a game like this.
Right.
Who wasn't at this game tonight is what I want to know.
There was a lot of people there.
Well, Eric Church was apparently here.
He was there. They showed him multiple times on TV.
He was probably sitting right in front of me too.
He was in the first row, right behind the North Carolina bench. He got a front row seat to the ass. He got a front row seat to the ass whipping.
Indiana had a ton of guys visiting tonight. Prospects, Flory Badunga, the kid from Kokomo, who they've got no shot at, but several others that they do.
Hey,
have a shot at.
you say they've got no shot at them until you get an atmosphere of a game like this tonight.
I was thinking that very thing tonight too. I'm like, you know what? They've got no shot at that kid. I'm like, how can he look at this, watch these games, and then go to Cincinnati, and it is not the same.
Here's the interesting thing, Jim, and this could not have been more noticeable. Purdue played tonight at Florida State. I'm just going to estimate it. Let's say Florida State's gym holds 14,000 fans. I have no clue what it is. Let's say 14,000. There weren't 3,000 people in that gym tonight. There was no one in that gym. And you compare Leonard Hamilton's ability to recruit at a place like that versus what these kids witnessed at Assembly Hall tonight. And hey, you get it. They get it at Purdue too. Purdue is an awesome venue to play in. They get awesome crowds. I'm the first one to admit it. But that one there tonight, like I know Hubert Davis acted like Assembly Hall wasn't going to be that big of a factor. And I said this to Charlie earlier. I can tell you who it was a factor to. those 5 or 6 recruits that were sitting behind the bench tonight.
Exactly.
Big factor to them.
Yeah.
Big time.
Well, I'm trying to think back. Purdue was a big game last year. That was a big win, no question. But that's partly because Purdue, partly because they had beat them since 1926. But I'm trying to think back these kinds of games where they used to win frequently. When was the last time they won one of these games here?
Yeah, I mean, to go through the last time that it happened, I'm not sure. The manner in which they won, like I said this to Charlie earlier, winning in a dominant fashion tonight, this is more fun, might not be the right word. The Kentucky Watt shot was fun. That was awesome. But if that scenario plays out 10 times, he's going to make that shot once, maybe twice.
Right.
You're going to win 10 or 20% of those games. The way this game was won tonight, you're going to win 100% of those games.
That's right.
That score couldn't have been – that was as close as it could possibly have been.
Yeah.
And they kept talking about it. It seemed like a 20 to 25-point game the whole time. And so this, to me, is one of the most impressive wins that I can remember in a long time against a blue blood type team.
Yeah, this is definitely a game for me. One thing I want to say that you can start creating a blueprint from, because you can recreate this. You can't recreate like all the threes you make and like things that you can recreate this, because I mean, like you can say we didn't shoot well, but yet our in paint scoring was dominant. And when you say words like that, you can take that and create identity from that and continue to get better.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just that. They've got 4 guys, 4 that they can run in there.
That's my point.
There's very few teams that have 4 guys that they can run into that paint, play like
that. That's what I'm saying.
And Jim, Trey Galloway played good off the bench. Geronimo wasn't great. Renew wasn't great. Tamar wasn't great. Those 3 all have and will most likely play better than they played tonight in most of the games this year. So our ceiling is super high because those guys didn't play that great. Obviously, Galloway played well, and I don't mean because of his points. I just mean he played well overall. The other guys didn't ever really get that comfortable, it didn't look like.
Right.
Well, it seemed like, Charlie and Todd, every time there's been a game so far prior to this one, 2 to 3 of the starters would go 4 for 25. They weren't getting great shooting from the starters every game. Tonight was different, and it seemed different. Like I said, Jalen Hutchfino was locked in. They get locked in, they're going to be a really tough out. I've already thought that they have a pretty good shot to go to Kansas. They could win that game because Kansas is not what they were last year. Arizona looks to be that's a different story. That's going to be a tougher deal. But this team plays like this, they're as good as anybody. I mean, they didn't shoot the 3-point ball great tonight, but they didn't have to because they dominated in the paint, like you said. 2 points,
and I said this
and that
earlier.
layup's a lot easier to get than that 3-point 19-foot shot.
I said this earlier when it was just Charlie and I talking, and that is, obviously we want to talk about the North Carolina, the Kansas, and the Arizona games. But the most important games Indiana plays in the month of December is the 2 Big Ten games. And so the one at Rutgers and the Nebraska game at home, those are the ones that really matter the most. If you told me right now that you can give me 2 of the 4 victories between Kansas, Arizona, Nebraska, and Rutgers left, I swear to you, promise you, I would take Nebraska and Rutgers victories and lose both of the Arizona-Kansas games in a heartbeat.
Yep.
Trace Jackson-Davis mentioned that he has not – it could not have been not beaten Rutgers, but he has not won at Rutgers. I
For
think
sure.
that's what he said.
Yeah. I don't think Indiana's ever won there, have they?
Ever since I don't think they won. Ever since he came to the Big Ten.
That can't be.
It's like the same as Wisconsin. It's like they've never won there.
Yeah, but there's a big difference. Wisconsin's got a good program.
I believe they won when they won the Big Ten in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but I think they did.
Okay.
Trace Jackson has not won there.
That was probably
that has started between us.
That was probably Geo Baker's second sophomore season back there in 2016 when they won that one. But man, I hope they go there and dominate that dude, because that podcast he did, those things don't get under my skin very often. But when he looks at the camera and says, Indiana, we don't even consider that a big game. Like, that's not a big deal. Okay.
Yeah, Hubert Davis kind of did that. That didn't work out too well for him.
It did not. He would have a special place. He would get a foul that he didn't see coming.
That never happened before.
If this was an old 1992 Indiana team, he would have a foul coming. He wasn't expecting.
Right.
You got the opportunity to talk to Eric Montross today. I got to chat with him a little bit before the game as well. Going into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, of course, Eric was a high school teammate of Todd's. They won a state championship together, knocking Kokomo out, who knocked Floyd Central out. I got to remind him of that every daggone time. But pretty cool. And then also Brian Evans, your former teammate, going into the Hall of Fame at IU as well. So that was pretty cool. Big E, man, just looking like for a 7-foot guy, he just kind of fits in. When he's sitting down, man, you can't. He's got the glasses on.
He's a big human. Like I remember, he wears a size. It's either 21 or 22 shoe, and like we're around big people all. Like you're around tall guys all the time and all that. But he's like, I know Shaquille's a whole nother level, but he's like just barely under that Shaquille level. Like his hands are just ridiculous and his feet are ridiculous. Like he's a big human. And to have that dude on your team in high school, like it was almost like cheating.
Exactly.
If we'd have lost, I would have really felt like I really sucked, because it's hard to lose with that guy.
Oh man. Charlie, how's things going with you? How was the clinics going, the teaching? Staying busy, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, it's all going well. I just actually, Todd, so and Jim know, I just completed I just launched my drill academy, man. I got over 130 plus drills I created, Todd.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, man. So that's what I love. Player development, teaching players how to play off the court. Yeah,
that would take me about a year to get through 130 drills.
Man. So 130 drills I created from about 10 skill categories of basketball, helping the players get better. Other projects along the way, man. So that's just kind of what I've been really after. And
that's awesome.
We'll make sure to get all that up on the TheHoosier.com so you guys can follow that as well and track all that down, man. Man, it's a late one, guys.
Yep. Let's hit it.
Crap. I can't believe it. I can't thank you all enough. I can't thank everybody enough for listening. But of course, why would you not listen to Todd Leary and Charlie Miller? Man, whenever they're able to be back together, we'll have them, because I know that that's who you'd rather listen to. That's who I'd rather listen to. I promise.
Thank goodness we don't have too many more of these 9:30 games.
Oh my God! And you know something else? I know Indiana plays at home almost every weekend in January and February. I think there's one weekend where they're on the road.
So they got away games during the week.
That must be how it works out, because the weekend games are at home. So works out pretty damn good.
It is good.
Charlie Miller, I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thanks for staying up this late. Your insight is invaluable. So we really
I appreciate it, man. Look, man, I learned from people like yourself, you and your partner PG, Pat Graham, man. I learned from you guys, man. So trust me, dude. Like, this is always an honor. Like to actually, people may not get this, and you may not think this, but to be on the eye level talking basketball with you, I couldn't do that 20 years ago. I mean, seriously, right? I mean, be honest with you, I couldn't. But now, going back and forth as we share our brotherhood, our connectedness to Indiana basketball, but yet talking about the next wave of generation, what they're doing, it's an appreciation for me. Trust me. Like, anytime I get a chance to share back and forth. Like, man, that's just an honor for me. I appreciate you guys.
That's nice of you to say.
Thank you.
Man, I can't thank you both because you both are incredible and a joy for all of us, seriously. And I mean that sincerely. And I'd love to get PG on here and me just to get the hell off.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
Man.
No, you wouldn't.
Well, there'd have to be, I'd have to have John do a monitor and John, the producer, to monitor everything. And
yeah, no,
you probably have
wouldn't.
to go back and edit stuff out.
He's mean. He's an old mean guy now. Like he's mean and nasty.
Oh man, well I can't wait. Well, man, we got another game on Saturday, guys, and I cannot wait. I hope you all have a great rest of your week.
You too. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank
All
you,
right.
guys. Thanks to Charlie Miller, the great Charlie Miller, and Todd Leary, of course. But most importantly, thank you guys. Thanks to John, the producer, as well, for sticking it out, all you guys. Appreciate you all so much. We're back tomorrow to do it again on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. So make sure you tune in then, and we'll have much more on then. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle for Charlie Miller, Todd Leary, Joe the producer, John the producer. I'm Jim Coyle. I'll see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to After the Game with Todd Leary. Make sure to catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio each Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 10:30 live on YouTube or at your leisure by subscribing to Indiana Sports Beat Radio on YouTube. We'll see you next time for another edition of After the Game with Todd Leary.